This is day 10 of the podcast, and I was listening in prayer. I was learning to pay attention in prayer. I was hearing his voice. The scriptures were becoming alive to me. All of this was really powerful. Fruit was being born when I taught and when I did counseling. But I began to wonder something, and you might be wondering along the way yourself. Is this how you become a heretic? Is this how you begin to get off track and begin to be prone to lies? So this was so drastically different from anything I'd been taught before, anything I'd been heard, or any way of hearing or learning that I'd ever been taught. So I was beginning to struggle with that. So about this time, I went over to Multnomah School of the Bible's seminary library. I went down into the basement and I spent hours and hours poring through the books, reading old guys, dead guys, people who had written hundreds of years ago and had laid down a course of discipleship and intimacy with the Lord in ways and in patterns that I had never been taught. Saints who had preceded me and who had also discovered this ancient path. And my heart began to rejoice because I wasn't off course. I was on course for the first time in my life. I'd found this way that was leading to great life, and it wasn't that I wouldn't need to read what others had taught, but I wasn't going to be led by that. I began to use any resource material as follow-up and confirmation rather than my only way of learning and gaining knowledge. So this was really helpful for me. What I basically was learning was how to change my mode of transportation for forward movement. So listen to my analogy. You know, if you are going to travel in your spiritual journey and you're going to travel by train, you're going to buy a ticket, you're going to get on, and it's going to, it has one direction, and you'll get off at the station. You just stay on board, and the tracks are going to take you to your destination at some point. There's another way that you can travel. It's a little bit more free than that. You travel by car. You're going to have to stay on the road, many roads. You probably will use a map, but there's a variety of ways that you can access that same end point, and it takes a little bit different skill than just getting on a train and sitting down and relaxing and waiting for the station. But what I was beginning to find was that there was a third way, and that third way is by ship. And by ship, there are no roads, there are no rails. You have to learn a different skill, and it's navigation. It's traveling by the heavenly realm. It is your fixed future point comes from looking into the heavens rather than studying the earth. Spiritual way of walking was being opened for me at this point, and the Holy Spirit was the one that was teaching me to navigate. So here's my question for you. What causes a book, a teacher, a teaching, a sermon to access your heart rather than just your head? And my other question, what's the difference for you between spiritual milk and spiritual meat?